Me now is John Edmonds, Professor of Epidemiology at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. He works on the mapping of infectious diseases and is currently advising the government on the coronavirus. And from California is Silicon Valley executive and writer Thomas Pueyo. He's not a scientist, but his detailed modeling of the virus's spread has set the internet alight with its stark warnings about the rate of infection. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you, Thomas. In California, President Trump, we just heard a few minutes ago, has declared a state of national emergency. What would actually change now because of that?
The country has moved from trying to contain the illness from outside to making sure that now inside it doesn't transmit. And that's the key here. They're realizing, oh my God, it's not that it's coming from outside. It's here, it's spreading, it's everywhere. We need to stop this. We need to stop the transmission between different people. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create social distancing, keeping people spread, not everybody together, so that the transmission goes down.
So can we now expect, as a result of this state of national emergency, the kind of measures in America that we've seen in places like Italy?
I think we will. Italy is different from the US. Obviously, individual freedoms are substantially more important here, but is the only thing that's going to stop this thing.
Okay, so you welcome this move of the president today?
Absolutely, and not only do I, but the markets are also responding. They were up 4% in the US as Trump was speaking.
Okay, I want to get back to you in a minute because I want to talk about your particular modelling of this virus. But John Edmonds, should we be declaring a state of national emergency here? Something as dramatic as that?
No.
No.
For what gain? What gain would we get from that? So we're going to get people up into a panic and stuff. We need people to come with us in a stepwise way. This epidemic is not going to be over in a week or a month. This epidemic is going to last for most of this year. And so if we're going to ask people to change their behaviour quite radically, it's going to be very difficult for them to do. It's going to have major economic and social impacts on them. Then we're going to have to limit the amount that we're going to ask them to do. Yeah, we're going to
limit the amount that we're going to ask people to do.
So we stop the epidemic, or we slow the epidemic right down, but we so that the NHS doesn't become overwhelmed, hospitals don't become overwhelmed. That's the idea. The only way to stop this epidemic is indeed to achieve herd immunity.
Okay, Thomas Pueyo, you're shaking your head, and now you've got your head buried in your hands. What's your response to what John Edmonds just said?
Hey, this is like deciding, you know what, this forest might burn, so let's cut a third of it. This is crazy. We want to have 10, 20, 30% of the population catch this. The UK has, what, 66 million people? That's how many people? That's around 20 million people. 1% of these people are going to die. So we're saying we want to kill 200,000 people in the UK. So that's...
I don't think anyone is saying that. But I think there is a real debate in the scientific community going on about the value of herd immunity. So just briefly, what do you think about the value of herd immunity? And can it be created through the measures that the government is introducing right now?
But we need to understand what it means, this herd immunity. They're saying everybody's going to catch it. So once they catch it, they can't then catch it anymore. That's crazy. We don't want people to catch it. We want people not to catch it, because otherwise they're going to die. And right now the cases are going exponentially. In a week, the NHS is starting to be collapsed. In 2 weeks, it's going to be completely collapsed if we don't take measures now. And people are going to panic, maybe not today if we don't take the measures, but they're going to definitely panic next week or in 2 weeks. We have 13 days of advance compared to Italy, right? They thought the exact same thing 2 weeks ago. And then 1 week later, they realized, oh my God, this is exploding. They have now, 17,000 cases? It's exploding then. They realized too late that they were not containing this. UK now has an opportunity to catch this before the weekend. And we need to catch this before the weekend, because everybody's going to spread this with their friends, with their families that they haven't been seeing during the week. So it needs to be declared now.
Okay.
That's why...
Thomas, let's bring in John. I mean, has he got a point here? We've got to catch this now.
There's two things. There's two strategies with a new virus, a new epidemic. There's two strategies. One, you can stamp out every single case in the world, and then the virus, then you're free. You've stopped that epidemic without achieving herd immunity, but you must catch every single case in the world. With a mild disease, that's incredibly difficult. That's the phase that we were in when we were trying to do containment and everybody else was trying to do containment, yeah? Trying to stamp out every single case in the world. It hasn't worked, yeah? We haven't managed to do that. The next phase, when the genie is out of the bottle, the virus is all around the world and spreading. The next phase, the only other way that the epidemic is going to come to a stop is achieving herd immunity. And let me explain, there are different ways that you can do it. The natural way that this will happen is that the epidemic will run very fast, and the epidemic will come up and come down very fast. And the herd immunity threshold is reached not at the end of the epidemic. That's what people sort of think. It's not at the end of the epidemic, it's at the peak of the epidemic. At that point, there's not enough susceptibles in the population to spread. And it's very important to understand this one further point, because at the peak, there's so many infectious individuals that they all infect so many other individuals. And so if you can bring the number of infectious people down at the peak, then the epidemic doesn't overshoot. You can manage the epidemic and reduce the total number of the size, so you can achieve herd immunity and not have an epidemic overshooting.
But the trouble is, this is
that by aggressive
This is a very important debate, and it's happening right now in the scientific community, as we discover on air. But getting away from the abstracts, in practice, what this means is that there will be many, many people, vulnerable people in this community, who may die as a result of what is essentially an experiment. There's no way out of it.
No, there's no way out of that.
Okay.
So we've given up on the containment phase. That hasn't worked. So, Thomas can throw his arms up as much as he likes, but that hasn't worked, yeah?
Okay, but the point is that we're the only country, as far as I know, that is espousing this model. I mean, the Italians are telling us that they wish they had done it earlier. They wish they had told their population 2 weeks ago, a lockdown means you don't go to the cafe, you don't go to the pizzeria.
And what happens when they release the lockdown?
What does happen then?
It comes back.
But is that
because
inevitable?
You haven't got rid of... Yes, it's inevitable. If there's virus around in the population, there's infectious people. So unless you've stamped every case out, not just in every case, not just in Italy, but around the world, as soon as you release them out of lockdown, it comes back.
This is a really crucial question. Thomas, what's to say that, once China, people go back to the factories and go back to the offices and the traffic's back on the streets, that this thing won't come back?
It will come back.
And possibly worse the second time round.
It will, but the key there is not to have a peak, because when you have a peak, you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people collapsing the NHS. And when you do that, all the people cannot share the ventilators that they need. All the people who are having heart attacks right now cannot get to the ER. And so what we need is not to have this huge peak, collapsing everything, killing everybody. What we need is to, what we call, flatten the curve. Slowly grow these cases, contain it, so that they can be spread over time. We can achieve herd immunity, not in 2 weeks going crazy, but in 6 months, in a year.
But that's what the government, sorry to interrupt us, but that's exactly what the Prime Minister was saying yesterday in his rather colourful language. They're saying we've got to flatten the sombrero. That's what they're trying to do here by delaying the virus.
That's right, and how do you do it? You need to take measures where people don't talk to each other, they don't interact with each other, so they don't transmit the virus. So you need to take measures now to avoid people interacting.
Does he have a point, John?
Well, it's exactly the point I was making. So the only way to do this is to achieve herd immunity, to stop this epidemic, and you impose social distance measures to slow it down, to bring the peak down, to spread it out over time. But if we're going to bring the peak down from a very high point and spread it over time, then we're going to spread it over a very long period of time. 6 months to a year is what we're going to be living with this epidemic for that kind of length of time. And so if we're going to ask people to take these really extreme measures, then we don't really want to ask them to do it before they have to, because they're going to have to do it for a very long time. Now, the epidemic is moving fast, and we will be asking them to do these measures very soon.
Let me ask cynically whether there is an element of this that the government doesn't want to shut down the economy, sacrifice the economy completely, as we've seen in other countries, while it is trying to find the right solution.
Look, there's no easy way out of this. All of these are going to be hugely damaging to people, to people's lives and the economy. And there is, of course, a balance. And so you have to try and get it get the epidemic, manage the epidemic as best we can, and manage the other aspects of, we have to manage the economy, of course we do. We can't ignore that completely. So,
but our priority is to save lives.
Of course it is.
Richard Horton, the editor of The Lancet, prestigious medical journal, has said that our policy at the moment, the government policy, is playing roulette with the public.
Yes.
This is what he said.
That's a kind of easy thing to say, isn't it? That's a very easy thing to say. But I don't think they are. I think what they're doing is trying to take it sensibly, stage it. Look, you'll see measures coming in very fast now. The epidemic is moving. You'll see measures coming in. So we will be asked to do, and all of us will have to take care to do those things.
When will those measures come in, do you think?
Very soon now.
In the next few days?
We're certainly within a week or so.
And these will be lockdowns of cities,
No, I don't think we're going to.
We're not going to get that.
No, not initially, but we may get there. Yeah, we are going to be asking people to take extra measures. They've already been flagged up. You had on your VT that you showed just before the Prime Minister talking about the next measures that might be along the line.
So you don't think we're dragging our feet on this, with possibly dangerous consequences?
I think we're trying to stage it as best we can.
Thomas, if we impose restrictions tomorrow or the day after, this weekend, as you just said, is that going to be early enough in order to stop us from becoming Italy in 13 days' time?
With the current number of cases that we have in the UK, around 800, and the growth rate day over day that we have, in a week we have 6,000 official cases, and in 2 weeks we have 45,000. We have today more cases than Wuhan had when it shut down. What they did when they shut it down was completely cut it. You can see the growth in 2 cases going dramatically down overnight. And now China has only a few dozen cases every day. They decided we're going to go aggressive now so that later on we don't need to be suffering all these consequences. And that was the right move because this is going exponentially. So what you need to do is when it's going exponentially, you catch it early and you really, really go aggressive against it. You don't let it fester to collapse the NHS.
Okay.
If you do that, then you can relax little by little over the weeks, over the months, the measures, so that now we have more capacity on the NHS and the cases are spread out over time.
And just, Thomas, explain to us, you wrote this article that went viral on the internet, your modelling for why these, for explaining why the numbers will double, numbers of infections will double every 2 days. How do you explain that, based on the China model?
It really depends on what's happening at every moment. Right now, this thing is growing really, really fast in the UK, right? We have 800 cases. It's growing at 33% every day. That means in 3 days, you get 1,900. So it's more than doubling in the next 3 days. And so what's happening is early on, when this thing is really catching up, cases explode and they grow at, say, 2x, they double every 2 days. Right. And this is the situation in which the UK is today. It is the situation in which Italy was a week ago. It is the situation in which Spain is right now.
Okay, John, why are you shaking your head at those numbers?
It's true if you just look crudely at the numbers, that the numbers of cases are doubling about every 2.5 days. But that's because they're doing more contact tracing. The actual underlying rate of doubling is more like about every 5 days.
Right, okay. We've got to leave it there. John Edmonds, Thomas Pueyo, thank you very much indeed. After the break, we've heard the